Hi, I'm Frank Masiosi, and I'm here with former Mayor Jordan Glatt and Councilwoman Susan Hairston. And we are going to conduct an interview. We have 16 questions, and we will take turns asking Susan the questions. With that, Jordan, would you like to kick it off?
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Susan.
Thanks.
So what caused you to raise your hand to run initially?
Oh, that is such an excellent question, but I'd like to begin by first thanking the both of you all for your service as former mayor and as former council president. I know now from the other side of the aisle what a privilege and a challenge it is. And so that you ask me what caused me to throw my hat in, I really care about this city so much. And knowing that this is just an important time, I want to do my part from a governing perspective and feel my experience bring something to the city.
Susan, what personal attributes make you right for council?
Oh, my personal attributes. I think what most would describe about me is I'm an astute listener. I am very careful with my decision making. I'm deliberative. I happen to be a pretty joyful person. It takes a lot to get me going. However, I am very serious about the well-being of my entire community. And so I think these are personal attributes that make a good council person.
And what about your prior experience? What makes you suited for the position?
So my prior experience is that I've been serving in this role now since November and have had a tremendous amount of experience in a short time with some really big, significant things happening. I currently serve as the chair of the Safety and Health Committee. And during a time of a pandemic, a time of economic crises in the country, and lots of turnover in our police and fire department, being responsible for those areas of the council has really given me a good insight and an ability to use my corporate, my career background. I've spent 24 years in private philanthropy at a large international foundation. Most people might be aware of it, the Ford Foundation, where I was for 20 years, and a smaller national foundation where I got to oversee budgets, a large staff, and really lots of policy. And I feel like this background, in addition to my community service, serves well for running again.
Great.
What's the one thing you would like the public to know about you?
The one thing that I would like the public to know about me is I take a long view on the well-being of our community. I know many people have heard over and over again on fourth generation. And so I know the disadvantage of making short-term decisions that are not sustainable. And so the idea that I have a long-term view that can take into consideration changes that are required.
So on the local level, what do you think the difference is between a Democrat and a Republican?
On the local level. I love this question because you may have been the one who coined this phrase, Jordan, about there's no Democratic or Republican way to pave a road. And so in this time of 2020, relationships matter, and having values that are associated with state and national, I'm going to call it doctrine or whatever. I feel that there is a difference at this moment in time. Typically, it doesn't matter. I have been appointed by a Republican mayor to the Board of Education. But I want to say there is a difference at this moment in time because we're having a national experience that is causing a lot of division. And so I want a perspective that really is holistic, and it doesn't want to divide. And I have to say, I know Republicans who are not in that way of thinking. However, we're being driven in this time to pick sides. And so I want to pick the side that is about bringing everybody together.
That sort of leads into our next question. Putting aside municipal government, what do you believe are the philosophical differences between the two parties?
The philosophical difference between the two parties are more government, less government, and more individual versus more collective. And I want to lift those two up as polar philosophical differences because typically people don't sit on only individuals and lots of government. So for me, I know that having smart government and not harming individuals, and also the collective to a point where it's looking out for the whole town, but it is understanding that there is a distinction between different constituencies. So that would be my answer on that regard.
Okay.
So Susan, every candidate talks about improving downtown retail. This is obviously especially important now because of COVID, the setbacks we hit with COVID. What do you think can be done to reinvigorate our downtown retail?
So our council has really bent over backwards in this extraordinarily challenging time of COVID to make sure that we are being as supportive and as helpful to the downtown and also businesses throughout town. And so to me, the number one thing is to make sure that it's safe and viable for people to partake of it, that it is friendly to both the customers, to the community. And so that's good policy. It's hearing what the business owners need, making sure the infrastructure is well supported. And we have really worked hard to make sure we have passed policy that has enabled that for the business community and our downtown, and parking.
Union County taxes are a huge burden on our residents. Mm-hmm. Many in the past have tried different approaches to deal with the county. What would you do differently?
So I'm sitting in front of the gentleman who really broke the door down in dealing with the county. And in terms of making sure Summit is getting the services that our taxes are paying for. We're a part of the whole, and our state is built on a constitution that lifts up county government, and we must have a relationship with them and making sure that we are engaging the services. And so as a part of the safety committee, I actually invited the director of human services to come in and talk with the safety committee about mental health services, and found that there's an entire department that we were not engaging with as significantly as we should. And so efforts are underway to see how we can improve and make sure that we're utilizing the resources that our tax dollars are paying for, that our state is also investing in, and that we're getting what we need.
I have to just say, Frank was a huge wingman, if you will, for dealing with the county during my time. So I don't want to let that go unsaid. But with 565 municipalities in the state, the concept of sharing services has long been appealing. Where do you see opportunities for shared services in Summit?
So we have two examples that exist now. It's our dispatch services, where we're sharing with neighboring towns, calling in emergency fire and those kinds of services, and that is working well. That was a excellent cost savings, and we are also sharing services with our health officer with 7 other towns, and that has worked out well. Going forward with our, I'm not sure that I should jump out on this parking situation, but because we're interested in being a pedestrian-friendly community, that ought to be something we could look into. But it's worked well for us when we make sure it's not giving up the benefits that we accrue when we have sole responsibility for it.
There's a lot of national press on the subject of policing and the role of policemen. What are your thoughts on this as they pertain to Summit? So
I have lots of thoughts about this because my dad was a police officer here in Summit. And so a role our entire family was very proud that he held, one of the first African-American police officers in Summit. So the police officers are near and dear to my heart. Having had the opportunity to interview our new chief of police and going through a very deliberative process about what is good policing in our community, I know that policing has changed significantly over time, and how we are ensuring the safety of all of our citizens, plus our police officers, is paramount. And so one of the things that Summit has been ahead of the curve on is community policing and making sure that there are good relationships between the community, all of the community, and the police. And that goes with involvement with the school district. It goes with involvement with the different places of worship. And I'm very proud that Summit has been on the forefront of that. And we still have work to do. And with our new police chief, he has laid out a vision that is even increasing community policing, making sure that the police department is reflective of the community. And so I know they talk about defunding, that's semantics. It's making sure that city dollars and the budgets are deployed appropriately. And I am all for that, making sure that where the dollars are invested for the police officers, for the police department, serve our city well.
Changing topics a little bit, Summit is constantly talking about redevelopment. What are your thoughts of the areas that need to be addressed and for what purpose?
Well, I'm excited about the Broad Street redevelopment project that was an outgrowth of the master plan. It was an extensive process that I think you both were a part of and had great community input. And we have to get that corridor that has great possibility for economic vitality and also business vitality and engagement of residents and visitors. And so this is an endeavor that we cannot let the pandemic hinder us. There have been ongoing meetings with the developers to ensure that we are taking into consideration everything that is on the horizon that could affect it. And it is critical to the vitality of Summit in many ways. So I am excited about where we started, and we're going to continue in a wise way. We're going to continue in a wise way and continuing doing it with community input.
Do you see other areas within Summit that would benefit from a redevelopment effort?
So we see down in my own neighborhood, I'm in Ward 1 down, I live on Lowell Avenue, and we see how with the assisted living and around Merck, there has been quite a lot of development that we have can thank the planning board for making sure that it's happening in a traffic-friendly way and bringing more options to community members. And I see on the other side of town in Ward 2, this council held a meeting with residents and business owners to get their input on what could be done to vitalize that neighborhood and that area with business development. And so this council has been very intentional about it and will continue in that way. That's what makes Summit a place that's inviting for residents and visitors alike.
So Susan, what do you think the biggest things in Summit that need to be fixed?
The biggest things in Summit that need to be fixed, I would think most people would point to the fact that we just went through a power outage of 5 days for some residents. And we thought we had passed that dilemma with the superstorm Sandy. And so, however, I do recognize that our storms are getting worse. And anybody who says there's a quick fix to our grid is fooling themselves, because it's a complex circumstance, but complex doesn't mean that you don't go all in. And so I'm very happy that our council president, Marjorie Fox, has put together an ad hoc committee of the mayor and a council member and the committee chairs, the department heads, to take a look at what could be done better. And JCP&L are a part of that conversation.
Great.
Probably other areas but that is uppermost in my mind because that was very challenging to deal with.
Susan, how would you manage the city budget? Can you identify new revenue sources or ways of reducing expenses?
So having managed multi-million-dollar budgets in my professional life, during times of crises, when you have to make sure you have an austere budget that does not do harm to your operations and your programs. And the number one thing that comes to mind is was not available when I was at the foundation was in municipal government. We get to consider perhaps bonds, and Summit has an excellent rating, and we now have the lowest capital budget that we've had in 10 years, and this might be something that we could explore. Our finance committee has really done a yeoman's job to make sure that our tax increases have been relatively flat this past year, despite losses in revenue. And so this is one item that looks like a possibility for us to look into.
Susan, car thefts and break-ins are an issue in Summit due to our proximity to Route 24. How would you deal with that?
So you see me laughing because the number one thing I want to say to people, please lock your cars. Please don't make it easy for folks to have their cars broken into. I happen to be on the rotation for hearing about these break-ins, and 90% of the time the car was left open. And so we do not want to close off Summit, and we don't want to have our police officers randomly stopping people. However, we do want to make sure that Summit is a safe and secure community. And so I don't know that our experience is any different than other communities, but if it is, we'll be sure to get on top of that. I believe data matters. And we are always looking for best practices, and we'll keep that in mind for these car thefts and break-ins.
If elected, when your 3-year term ends, how would you like to be remembered?
Legacy. The number one thing on my mind would be to have citizens more engaged with city government. Most people don't even know who their council people are. Most people don't know how ordinances and policies are passed, and it is a good community that has it's a good government that has an engaged citizenry. And so my hope is that that is even taken to a greater extent.
Okay. Well, with that, we've just about used up our time. So thank you very much for answering our questions. And to all the voters out there, whoever you favor, get out and vote.
Thank you both so much.
And thanks for being willing to serve.